Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. Today we're taking a look at the final set of the first B&M wave of 2022, which is the History of the Daleks set number 10, which is based upon the story of Death to the Daleks. This set features two silver Dalek drones, which do vary slightly, but we'll be getting onto that. But first of all, I'd just like to apologise to say that it's taken a while to get this review up and going because me and my partner are in the process of moving house, so it's taken a little while to actually get this up and running. But yeah, thank you for your patience. Again, these variants are something that fans have been wanting to get into their collections for a very long time, considering how rare these variants are in particular. I mean, one was released way back in 2009 as part of a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and the other one was a sound effects one, which is very hard to get a hold of. But the wait is finally over, and before we get into all the nitty-gritty details, let's begin by taking a look at the packaging. As per usual, the box design is in the blue and silver style guide, with the TARDIS and Stacked Doctor Who logo on the side, the name of the set, the gold foil sticker, and the little red box stating the name of the story and the year of broadcast. On the back we have a synopsis about Death to the Daleks, as well as some behind the scenes information about the history of the props, which is always interesting to read. Just like the Planet set, the Daleks are now on a blister card, as well as the backdrops being plain. So if you're wanting to keep them pristine, I suggest not ripping the blister off. But out of the box though, these are really nice representations of the on-screen props. This Dalek in particular has always been one of my favourite designs of all time. It is definitely up there along with the 60s counterparts, as well as the Imperials in my eyes. I never understood why they never returned in this sort of livery in the first place, as they really do look machine-like, instead of that dull grey colour that we got throughout the 70s and the 80s. Not to say that I dislike the grey variants, but the silver ones always looked more like they were actually made of metal instead of being lumps of fiberglass. But talking about the toys themselves, these two are basically re-releases of existing figures that were released many moons ago. One was released as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and the other was a sound effects Dalek in the first wave way back in, I want to say 2011, which turned out to be very hard to get. Again, they're using that brilliant silver that was used on the 60s Dalek toys, which is really great. It captures the essence of those original props, even though the lighting in those stories did make the colour look even brighter and more metallic. The black is also a lovely contrast to the silver, which just makes those certain details pop out. Whereas on the gunmetal grey variant, it just makes them feel flat and dull, so I argue to say this is a better design. Starting with the machine gun variant, this release first appeared around 2009 and was originally packaged with the third Doctor. It was a San Diego Comic-Con release and originally hard to come by. I remember getting that particular set a few years later for Christmas, and I really never left it alone. I always had fond memories with this Dalek because as a sad nerdy 10-year-old, I've always found it really cool that this Dalek in particular had a machine gun. So I always used to act out the scenes where the Dalek would blast its enemies into oblivion. There's not much that's changed on the design, apart from the dome lights having that ridge sculpt, on which is a vast improvement because the earlier Dalek releases, they were just flat and they were slightly smaller if I can recall. But it's nice that that problem has now been fixed, as I always loved the fact they released this figure based on a variant with the orange dome lights, which I assumed was the leader. It did sort of stick out like a sore thumb in the episode, but it was a nice feature on the prop as well as on the toy. The colours really work well together. As well as that, the silver is much brighter, and like I said, the silver is pretty much the same as we saw in the 60s Dalek toys, which comes out 100 times better in my opinion. I just love how shiny these are, and it's definitely a step up in my eyes. Everything else seems to be the same, such as the two-step base, the oval in the middle of the midsection. The only other things that have changed are the slats, which are the new sculpted ones, and the paint decors on the eye stalk. The only major difference here is the fact that the section where the rings begin on the original had this grey strip, but sadly it is missing here. It's not a major issue, but it's a shame that this didn't materialise on this new release. If I was to be that pedantic about this detailing, then I would just paint it myself. But the only thing I'm going to be pedantic about over these are the back of the midsection hasn't been painted again, whereas it should actually be black, but sadly it's just silver. It happened on the Power of the Daleks set, but it didn't look as noticeable, but considering that it's supposed to be black, it does stick out like a sore thumb. I know some reviews that are already out there, such as Batman March, where he actually showed off his versions, and it appears that the earlier samples didn't have this issue. The whole part was actually painted black. Sadly for everyone else, we are stuck with this issue. But after reading on the Doctor Who Toysnet forum, someone else who actually had an early sample came with the conclusion that it was quite possible that the sample releases did not have that issue. But when it came to actually releasing these into the wild, the issue was present, sadly. So I could have a massive rant over this and how character are doing it on purpose or whatever, but I think overall it's something that I could do. I could just paint it myself and be done with it. I mean, I won't be losing sleep over it. It's something minor. It's human error. People make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. But moving on to the major difference, we have the machine gun, which is such an excellent sculpt. You have the little holes going up the barrel, the end piece, which is a fabulous sculpt. The sculpt in general is just so detailed. What else can I say, really? It's an amazing figure. It represents the prop so well. And like I always say, it's a marvellous opportunity for fans to finally get their hands on this variant, as I know it was very sought after back in the day. It's something that has been requested for such a long time, considering how hard it was to get originally. So it's nice to see that fans will be able to have this item finally in their collection. So moving on to the other Dalek, which is how we see it in the beginning of the story. This release was first seen in a unique wave of sound effects Daleks, which shows the history of these particular villains, which was really cool. We actually got some unique releases that haven't been released before, and this was one of them. The differences between this and the other one is that it doesn't have the orange dome lights. The oval is now gone, which is accurate to one of the goon props that was seen in the show, because I think it was all of them didn't have them, or one or two of them didn't have it, but it isn't present on this toy. The machine gun is no longer present and is replaced with the death ray, which is how it was seen in the beginning of the story. But my only discrepancy about this, though, is that they've just painted it the wrong colour yet again. It is technically meant to be black along with the ball joint, as that is how it appeared in the actual episode. It's a shame that they didn't rectify this mistake, as from what I can tell with these sets, as they are trying to get the figures as accurate as possible, but it's a shame. Again, the paint apps and detailings are exactly the same. The only thing to differentiate this from the original is that the sound effects are no longer present, obviously. This is a very nice figure on a whole. It's something that I'm glad I picked up, as I always wanted to get more of these, but it was so expensive back in the day. I didn't want to be spending £15 for the exact same Dalek over and over again. So again, I've completely forgot to shoot the articulation part of the review. So again, same background as before, but if I move you out the way, articulation at the dome, I can pivot up and down. The gun and plunger are on ball joints, and the Dalek can move freely with the access of a swivel wheel at the front, and then just two basic on the back, which is quite cool. Now, one thing that I do want to add is that the guns are much easier to pull out this time around. So if you have the original versions, you could probably switch them around and just stick the guns in. Like I said, there's not much of an issue like there was on the old ones where they were pretty much fixed in. So I'm probably going to display these just like this, just to give a bit of variety on the shelf, and to be fair, they look quite cool. So on a whole, this set is another great opportunity for fans to grab these if they missed out the first time around. I know it may not be 100% in regards of the ray gun or the back panel not being painted properly, but it's something that I could easily rectify, and I think people at home could easily rectify with a bit of spray paint. These are definitely something to be admired. The colour palette on these guys is just magnificent, and it's a shame that they only had one outing, as I absolutely love the colour designs. I can understand the reasoning why Michael E. Bryan wanted to use this colour scheme, as it does make them look slightly more interesting instead of the grey design which we pretty much got throughout the 70s and 80s. So if you're wanting to buy this set, then they are available now in B&M stores while stocks last. As you know, they do fly off the shelves quite quickly, so really be quick. I know we're in November now and we're going to be getting the second wave, so there may be less in store, so quickly try and grab this set while you can, because They are just so cool. I'm actually considering trying to buy another set of this later on just to army build these because they look so cool. So that pretty much wraps up this review and the final set from the first wave of B&M exclusives of 2022. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again for another Doctor Who action figure review later on this year.